So what really makes a great leader? I'm not talking about a manager who just, gives orders. I mean someone who actually inspires, develops, and leads their team to big wins. Well, today we're going to break down the blueprint for what modern frontline leadership looks like piece by piece.
Yeah, it really all boils down to this one question. Is being a leader just about having a title on an org chart, or is it something more? A set of actual skills and attitudes that anyone can learn? We're going to dig into the exact skills that turn someone from a boss who just gives directions into a leader who truly inspires action.
That jump into a leadership role, it can be a huge shock. And if you don't have the right tools, it's so easy for new managers and their teams to get stuck in this, cycle of frustration. It just stalls everything out before it even gets going. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like on the ground.
Okay, take a look at this list. I bet some of these sound pretty familiar, right? We've all been there. Poor communication, nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing, morale is in the basement. These aren't just little hiccups, They're serious cracks in the foundation, and they lead to frustration, missed deadlines, and honestly, good people quitting.
So how do you fix all that? Well, it's not about some simple checklist of do's and don'ts. The real solution is a whole blueprint, a new way of thinking about leadership that's built on 3 really powerful, connected pillars.
And that brings us right to our first pillar, leading yourself. Now I know, it sounds kind of simple, but this is the absolute foundation of everything. Think about it. How can you guide other people if you don't even understand yourself first? Your own tendencies, the impact you have, and just how you show up every day.
So this first step is all about making that huge transition from being a doer to being a leader. It's a totally different job. It means you got to figure out what your personal leadership strengths are. It's like a deep self-assessment. And then it's about figuring out how to manage all the different personalities on your team. This is where things like learning personality models come in. They help you understand your own communication style so you can adapt it and really connect with everyone, no matter how they're wired.
Okay, so once you've got a handle on yourself, then you can start to focus outward. And that brings us to pillar number 2, leading your team. This is where all those people skills come into play, the stuff you need to build a team that's not just good, but truly high-performing.
Because look, a team is so much more than just a bunch of people working on tasks, right? A great leader really gets what makes people tick. It's about figuring out how to motivate your employees by understanding what they really need. And from there, you build a culture of real teamwork where everyone working together achieves way more than they ever could alone.
And at the very heart of leading a team is communication. It is the engine that drives everything else. And I'm not just talking about what you say. It's about actually listening, like active listening. It's building real connections and knowing how to give good feedback, both the good stuff and the tough stuff, so you can build the trust you need for a team to really work well together.
And of course, anytime you put a group of people together, there's going to be conflict. It's just inevitable. But here's the thing, conflict doesn't have to be a bad thing. A skilled leader knows how to handle it. They have the tools to resolve things constructively. They don't see disagreements as a problem to run away from. Instead, they see them as an opportunity, a chance to turn a potential breakdown into a real breakthrough for the team.
All right, all of this work on yourself and your team builds up to our final pillar, driving performance. This is where it all comes together. It's where that self-awareness and those team skills turn into actual, tangible results. It's about hitting your goals and making sure your team wins.
See, the best leaders don't just react to fires all day. They have a real, structured way to solve problems, and it's a pretty clear process. First, you got to identify the real problem, not just the symptoms. Then, you gather the facts, weigh all your options, and only then do you make a decision. And of course, you circle back after to see how it's working and get feedback.
And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? So much of what we call poor performance isn't really about people's skill or their effort, it's just a lack of clarity. I mean, if people don't know where the goalpost is, how can they possibly score? Having a clear vision and direction is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to drive performance.
This brings us to a really key shift in mindset. It's about moving from being a manager of tasks to being a coach of people. That's a huge difference. The best leaders are constantly coaching. They live by a pretty simple rule. You focus on growing your people, and the results, they'll follow. They really will.
So you do all this work, you master these 3 pillars. What's the payoff? What's the actual real-world difference that this whole approach makes?
Okay, so here is a huge differentiator.
This isn't about sitting in a classroom listening to a lecture. The most effective way to develop leaders is 75% activity-based. That means it's about practice, it's about role-playing, it's about self-assessment. Because leadership is a skill you have to do to learn, you can't just listen to someone talk about it.
And when you learn that way, the outcomes are so real, you can actually measure them. Hey, remember that list of stumbles we looked at in the beginning? Well, the result of using this blueprint is the exact opposite of that. We're talking less conflict, better morale, higher engagement, and most importantly, a leader who actually feels confident and competent in what they're doing.
So in the end, it all comes down to this one simple idea. Leadership isn't some title that's handed to you. It's a skill you build, you practice, and you get better at every single day. The blueprint is right here. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?